Hello humans, it's just Martine and I play bass guitar. I know this might be confusing for those of you who don't know me in real life, and even maybe some of you who do, because I only started playing it when I left for college. But this is apparently my 3rd year of playing bass guitar, and I never practice unless I'm actively working on a show. So for the past 2 years, I've played in pits for the performing arts organization on my campus for musicals. So I've played pit in 2 musicals. This is after learning the very basics of bass. Like, we had one short bass unit in my guitar class my senior year of high school, and we're like, Jope, I want to play this, and my parents surprised me by getting me a bass guitar for my graduation gift for high school. They're music teachers, they're incredibly sweet, and I love bass guitar. So I brought it to college. I bring it to college all the time, but I only really get a chance to practice and play when I have to practice and play, so for shows. So I played 2 shows. I played 9 to 5 and I played Little Shop of Horrors. I'm obviously not perfect. It's a pretty new instrument to me, even though this is my 3rd year playing, because I rarely get to practice. So this week I want to make a concerted effort to practice, and I want to bring you along for the journey. And I don't just mean like playing fun songs, I mean like technique, working on my techniques. Okay, I'll introduce you to my bass and then we'll set things up and we'll get started. This is Maverick, my child, graduation gift from my parents, the love of my life. I don't really think you get the full extent of it from watching that time lapse, but one of the reasons that I don't play often is because it takes forever to set up. I have to get my amp set up, get my bass ready, get my headphones plugged into the right output, have my chair over here, get my computer where I can see it to play the music that I'm trying to play, and then I still have to tune it, and by then I'm exhausted. So yeah. By the way, the reason I wear headphones when I play bass is because I wouldn't want to turn up the amp too loud, but it's really important to be able to hear the bass, and it's super hard to hear what you're doing on bass if you don't have it plugged into the amp. So the headphones give me the amp sound without giving the amp sound to the rest of the world. So like, I'm hearing a very different sound right now than you might if you can hear that string at all, which you might not be able to because that's the E string, so it's very low. So disclaimer, I'm not a professional. That's specifically why I'm doing this challenge, is to try and start the process of getting better and get into a better routine of practicing. I think my main problem though is that I have a million habits that I already do every day, so incorporating this, I don't know how well that's gonna work, but let me walk through my plan. So I found this quote-unquote killer bass workout online as a free PDF. So I'm gonna start by working through this. It looks like it would be really boring, but the point is to focus on the technique, make it interesting for myself. The better you get, the more interesting the things you play can be. For reference, this was the music Little Shop that I had to play. Looks a lot more interesting, right? But like, it's really hard to play this stuff if your techniques are wrong, and my techniques are not great because I'm mainly self-taught on bass, so yeah. Not bad at all. I played this like a week and a half ago, so it's happy with me since I tuned it for the first time in like several months, very recently. Less than 5 minutes in and I already changed course. I've got small hands and a weak pinky. It's already sore. I'm working it out for sure. So I'm doing this basic bass pinky exercise that's basically just over and over again. So that's it. And it hurts. Okay, I'm done playing for tonight. I did a mix of like fun things, looking back at old music, workouts, etc. Not for too long. The question is, how am I going to set this up so that I can easily practice this week and it's not so much of an ordeal? So that's what we're going to try to figure out now. Here's what I think I've found as a solution. I'm going to leave the cord plugged in and tuck it under my bed, but I'm not storing my amp under my bed anymore, because then I have to reach and get it out, and I'm not putting the wire back in my bass case to connect my bass to the amp, because even though that's neater, it's not like I need to have my bass packed for any reason. Like, if I was going to rehearsals with it, fine, like I'd put it away every time, but there's no reason to do that. So I'm just going to leave it with my amp, and I'm going to leave my amp over there, and then whenever I want to play, my bass will be there like it always is. I'll move my chair back over here, grab my amp, and just plug it in. Everything's already set to go. Plug in my bass to the amp, and then I'll be ready to go. And that should take like 2 minutes tops. We're going to see how that works. It's Monday and I just practiced bass for like an hour, I think. I was having fun just like looking through old music. I started with like warm up. I looked at some technique things. I'm trying to figure out if like the soreness is because I haven't played bass in a long time, and so playing for like an hour straight is a shock to the system, or if there's like an improper technique or some things. We're working through all of that. I was also practicing sight reading by going through this old music, which is interesting. I feel like I can't read bass clef until suddenly I have like a bass in my hands, and then bass clef makes perfect sense. Ledger lines are still, but I also need to practice. Like, I'm good at the bottom of the neck of the bass, but especially because I have tiny hands, and just for like strain's sake, I know I need to get better if I want to become an advanced player up the neck. But I don't really know how to get better at that. We'll see if I can find any solutions to that this week. The tips of my fingers, like, they're not calloused, but they feel as if they've just played bass, which is interesting. I really do think for me that playing bass is a matter, one, of reducing friction, but also of like saying that I'm going to do it and making it a priority in my life. Because for the past, like, this is the second day in a row that I've set up because I'm doing this challenge, and then I ended up getting swept away and playing for like an hour. And a person just doesn't do things for an hour when they like aren't enjoying them or aren't hitting a groove or aren't interested in what they're doing. Like, I'll look up and suddenly an hour has passed and I'm like, what? But I feel like I barely did anything. And I think it's nice to have that time of mental detachment where like, I don't care about the time going by, or like, I don't have to force myself to do it for a specific amount of time. Like, it just happens. So I think this experiment so far is going really good in a couple of ways, because one, it's helping me reduce friction by showing me that if I set up my amp over there, you know, it's easier to access. Or like today, I knew that after my class, I wanted to practice right away to get it out of the way for today. So I set that up before I went to class. And then when I got back from class, I just like sat down and started playing. So first of all, to know those things, but also then to know that like I have fun playing bass and I like doing it, but I have to be like, okay, I'm going to play bass, or else I'm just not going to, because I don't think to. Learning things. We're learning things here, and that's the point of this challenge. I have my amp and my bass set up because I'm about to hop on a meeting, and then I'll play bass after that. I just had what felt like a really successful practice session. Like, I worked on some scales and I worked on getting to know my fretboard a bit more, just a little every time. I don't have to have it memorized right away. And then I tried to apply those things that I learned to old music that I've played that I would usually play. And like the easier way for me to sight read right now, which is like the bottom of the fretboard, and instead shifting that up. And I'm getting better at sight reading that, which is exciting because it's going to make playing so much easier, because the reason that you don't want to be at this end of the fretboard, if you can help it, is one, you want to avoid playing open strings because they sound different. And then two, because, okay, I guess three reasons. Two, the frets are bigger down there, and so it's harder to reach things and to make them sound good. And then three, instead of having to jump like this all the time, instead if you can just play your notes here, it's so much faster. You can play faster, you can play more accurately. I'm really enjoying this week-long challenge. Fun times. I actually love practicing bass. Today was one of those days where I did not feel like setting up my whole bass setup, plugging it in, tuning it, etc., putting in my headphones. So I just did 15 minutes. I put the bass on me. I practiced some basic scales. I looked at that killer bass workout and I practiced playing it, and I focused less on tone and more on the dexterity portion of it, and I'm proud of myself for doing that. I kind of want to play more now, but I also have a really busy day, so I can play more later if I still feel like it and find the time. But for now, I'm going to move on to other things. But just proof that you don't have to make it an hour-long session of practicing an instrument. You can just play it for a couple minutes. You can find a way to make it easier to set up or decrease the amount of time that you spend setting up so that a short practice session still feels valuable. It's possible. My goal for today was to practice one exercise until I could play it at 100 beats per minute, and I did it. I can't really look at the sheet music as I shift yet. I'm not used to that feeling. Also, if I have to use excessive pinky, like if I have to go from the second to the fifth fret, I have to look down, otherwise it buzzes really badly. So those are things to work on with that exercise now that I've gotten used to it and gotten it faster, is practicing being able to look at the music while I play it, because I ended up just basically memorizing it. And being able to trust my pinky finger. But overall, a good Friday practice session. My hand feels very alive now, which is always good. That will probably be a go-to warm-up for me, not gonna lie. It's the first exercise on that killer bass workout that I found, so A+. I just did my bass practicing for the day. As you saw in that time lapse, I was working on the second exercise because I went to do the first exercise that I worked on all yesterday and I had retained it really, really well, which is good. This one, I don't feel like I mastered as well, but I think that's only because I couldn't seem to memorize it. And also then I went back and did the old one again and then did the new one, and so my brain was kind of scrambled, but that's okay. I'm getting better, and this time I also feel like I wasn't looking at the notes, which isn't good. I was only looking at the tab, but I was still getting more comfortable moving up the fretboard and getting used to the feel of that and getting faster at fretting, which is really important. Progress is progress, and I'm proud of myself. I've been wanting to practice these little types of exercises and scales and stuff since I started bass, and I just haven't made the time for it. I've had the time for it. I'll be home for the summer and then I won't pick up my bass at all. But doing a little every day, obviously it's been less than a week since I've started practicing again. And I know I won't be this good at practicing after I end this challenge, although I hope I retain it somewhat. But I think it's amazing what playing a little every day can do in terms of making you feel more comfortable with it. Every time I go a long period of time, say I stop a show and then the next year I do another show and I have to relearn how to read bass clef and relearn what each string is, such basic things. And I feel if I just did a little upkeep once in a while, I would actually improve over time because I wouldn't be wasting my time learning the basics again, if that makes sense. Although there are lots of basics that I still need to get down and haven't committed the time to doing, scales and stuff. Learning an instrument is a slow process, and if you never give yourself time to go through that process, with my musical foundations, I can play bass and it's fine, but I don't feel I'm good at bass because I'm not, and that takes some of the joy out of it. I want to feel confident playing in front of other people, especially when I'm playing in a show. I don't want to be haha, I don't know what I'm doing. And if I just invested a little bit of time every day to doing it, because at the beginning of the week I would play for an hour every day and just get lost in it, and there will be days like that. But then for the past 3 days I haven't been plugging my bass in. I've just been playing and sitting on the ground while my computer charges and doing it. I have still seen benefits from that. I don't know why I make it such a big thing in my mind, because it's not. All's well. So what did I learn from practicing my instrument every day of the week? Not much, to be honest, except that I really don't prioritize music in a way that I should because I know that it makes me happy. But I feel every time I consistently perform a habit, I come to that same conclusion. I'm not saying that this video was pointless or anything. I hope you enjoyed watching it, even though literally no one asked for it. And if anything, I hope it inspires you to pick up something that you enjoy but don't give yourself time to do. But that's all I have for today. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below, do you play any instruments? When was the last time you actually gave yourself time to do a hobby that you loved but often put off doing? And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content on Wednesdays and Sundays. And until next time, bye humans, bye!